Alright, so in this video we're going to be talking about converting fractions to decimals. So let's take the fraction 4 over 5. So we know that this fraction looks just kind of like this. It's 4 over 5. So many times we're going to be given fractions and we're going to want to convert them to decimals. And when we do that, we use a method called TIBO. TIBO will turn your fractions into decimals. And all TIBO stands for is top, in, bottom, out. Right? So the T, top, I, in, B, bottom, O, out. Top, in, bottom, out. So anytime we use TIBO, we want to think division. We're dividing. So now we put this numerator, or the top number in the fraction, on the inside of the division symbol right here. We put the bottom number on the outside. Alright? And now we just simply divide them. And this will get our fraction to a decimal. So how many times can 5 go into 4? Well, 5 can go into 4 0 times because it's too big. Put our decimal, bring it up. How many, put our 0 behind it. How many times can 5 go into 40? Well, it can go in there 8 times because 8 times 5 is 40. So we do our multiplication now. 8 times 5 is 40. And we subtract these numbers. Get a remainder of 0. So when we get a remainder of 0 on division, we know we're done. So we know that 4/5 as a decimal is 8/10. Cool. And it's important to remember that when we're changing these, when we're converting from a fraction to a decimal using TIBO, these values are the same. We're not changing the value, we're just changing their form from decimal to fraction. So let's go ahead and practice with another fraction. The next fraction we're going to practice with is 10 over 30. Cool. So we know we want to change a fraction to a decimal, so we're going to use TIBO. So we have 10 over 30. One thing we should always try to do before we use TIBO, though, is to see if we can simplify the fraction we're working with. It'll make our life easier. So can 10 and 30 be divided by any number? It can be divided by 10. Cool. Let me get, sorry, not 2. Be divided by 10. Can't be divided by 2, but we're going to do 10. 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 10 divided by, 30 divided by 10 is 3. Cool. So now our fraction turns into 1/3. We simplified it. Now we need to use TIBO on this fraction. 1 over 3. We use TIBO, so we know divide. Top number goes in, bottom number goes out, and now we divide. 3 cannot go into 1. It's too big. How many times can 3 go into 10? 3, 6, 9. You can go into it 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Bring down our 1. Bring down our 0. 3 can go into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. We get 1. Bring down to 0. Oops, I see a pattern happening. 10, 9, 10, 9, 10. And we'll get 9 again, and then we'll get 1, and we'll keep going. So I know that this is a repeating decimal. So I know that 1/3, or 10 over 30, as a decimal is 0.3 repeating. Cool. So we're done there. Let's try another one. Next one we're going to try is 42 over 84. So we know we're changing a fraction to a decimal. so we need to use TIBO. 42 over 84. Okay, so we're gonna, before we use TIBO though, we need to see if we can divide this number or simplify this number at all. Well, I see they're both even, so I know they can be divided by 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. 84 divided by 2 is 42. Now some might stop here, but I see that this can be simplified by 3. 3. So now we get 21 divided by 3 is 7. And 42 divided by 3 is 14. Okay. And some might stop here, but I see this can be simplified even more. Getting a lot of practice on that simplification. 7 can go into both of these numbers evenly. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Cool. So now we simplified 42 over 84 all the way down to 1/2. We can't simplify that any further. So now I need to use TIBO on this number. It's a lot easier to use TIBO on this number than this fraction. This fraction than this fraction, just because the numbers are smaller. Even though these are the same values, they're equivalent, it's easier to do it on this one. So we do TIBO, top in, bottom out. Can 2 go into 1? No. Can, so we put our decimal, put our 0 behind it. Can 2 go into 10? It sure can. And a nice even 5 times. We have a remainder of 0, so we're done. So 42 over 84 as a decimal is 5/10. Cool. Alright. Now we are going to do a little word problem. So we'll say Tim made 14 out of 20 free throws. What is this fraction as a decimal? So this is a question that you could easily get on a test or a quiz. So when I see 14 out of 20, I'm automatically thinking fraction. I'm thinking 14 over 20. And then it wants us to turn this fraction into a what? It wants us to turn into a decimal. So we need to see, before we do TIBO, we know we use TIBO to turn fractions into decimals. If I can simplify this to make my life easier. So can 14 and 20 both, can a number go into both of those evenly? Well, 2 can because they're both even. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Cool. Can't be simplified any further, so we're going to go ahead and go TIBO, top in, bottom out. How many times can 10 go into 7? It can't. It's too big. Bring up our decimal. And put a 0 behind it. How many times can 10 go into 70? 7 times. 10 times 70. Or 10 times 7 is 70. Sorry, we subtract those. We have a remainder of 0. That tells us in division that we're done. So our answer is that 14 out of 20 as a decimal is 7/10. And they're equal. They're equivalent. They're just in different forms. It's a bad arrow. But alright, so hopefully we understand how to convert fractions to decimals. Hope this helped.